My name is Alberta, and I am 54 years old. For 30 years, I raised my daughter completely alone. 3 jobs, skipped meals, every sacrifice you can imagine. When she got engaged, I was overjoyed dreaming of her wedding day. But when I finally asked about the date, her husband smirked and said it was last weekend. Just for real family. My heart shattered into pieces. But what he did not know was that I had been paying their mortgage for 2 years. And karma has perfect timing. Before I tell you how that smirk disappeared from his face, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment and let me know your city or country. Hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss how this story ends. Trust me, patience always pays off, and so does knowing your worth. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a small farming town in Nebraska, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and hard work was just a way of life. My parents were not wealthy by any means. My father worked the fields from sunrise to sunset, and my mother took in laundry and sewing to help make ends meet. We did not have much, but we had love, and that was enough. From a young age, I dreamed of becoming a nurse. I loved the idea of helping people, of being there during their most vulnerable moments. I studied hard in school, earning good grades, hoping that one day I could make that dream come true. But life, as it often does, had other plans. When I was 19 years old, I met a young man named Samuel at a county fair. He was charming with a quick smile and easy laugh that made my heart flutter. We fell in love fast, the way young people do when they do not know any better. Within 6 months we were married, and I was pregnant with our first child. I thought I had found my happily ever after. I really did. I pictured us growing old together, raising a family, building a life. But Samuel was not the man I thought he was. When our daughter Patrice was just 6 months old, he packed a bag one morning and told me he was leaving. No explanation, no apology, just gone. He left me with a stack of bills. I did not know we had a baby who needed me every moment of every day, and a broken heart that I did not have time to mend. I could have crumbled. I could have given up. But when I looked at my daughter with her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I knew that was not an option. I would give her the life she deserved, even if it killed me. And so began the hardest years of my life. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. During the day, I trained to become a certified nursing assistant, taking night shifts at the local hospital once I got my certification. In the evenings before my hospital shifts, I waited tables at a diner downtown. On weekends, I cleaned houses for wealthy families on the other side of town. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford, averaging maybe 4 or 5 hours on a good night. Every penny I earned went toward Patrice. I made sure she had good clothes, even if I wore the same 3 outfits for years. I enrolled her in the best schools I could afford, driving her across town, so she could have better opportunities. When she wanted to take ballet lessons, I picked up extra cleaning shifts. When she needed braces, I sold my grandmother's ring, the only piece of jewelry I owned. I never dated. I never went out with friends. My entire existence revolved around my daughter and making sure she had everything I never did. I told myself it would all be worth it someday. When she grew up and understood the sacrifices I made, she would appreciate it. She would love me for it. That thought kept me going through the darkest nights. Patrice was a beautiful child. Smart and curious, with her father's dark hair and my mother's green eyes. She excelled in school, earning awards and recognition that made my heart swell with pride. I would sit in the audience at her school plays, tears streaming down my face, thinking about how all the sacrifice was paying off. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. As Patrice entered her teenage years, I noticed a change in her. She became distant, embarrassed by things that never bothered her before. Our small house, my old car, the fact that I worked as a waitress and a cleaning lady. One afternoon, I went to pick her up from school. I was still wearing my uniform from the diner, a simple blue dress with a white apron. I did not have time to change because I was rushing between jobs. I stood by the front entrance, waving, when I saw her come out with a group of friends. She looked right at me. Our eyes met. And then she turned away, pretending she did not see me, and walked out a different exit with her friends. I stood there for 10 minutes before I realized she was not coming. I found her later at a coffee shop down the street, laughing with her friends, like nothing had happened. When I asked her about it that night, she shrugged and said she did not see me. But I knew she was lying. I could see it in her eyes. She was ashamed of me, of her own mother. That moment broke something inside me. But I told myself it was just a phase. Teenagers are difficult. They care too much about what others think. When she grew up, she would understand. She would appreciate everything I did for her. So I kept working, kept sacrificing, kept telling myself that one day it would all be worth it. When it came time for college, I had saved enough to pay for her tuition at a good university in California. It was nearly every dollar I had managed to put away over 20 years of scraping and saving. I handed her that check with tears in my eyes, so proud of the young woman she had become. Patrice hugged me briefly, said thank you, and then she was gone. Off to her new life in sunny California, while I stayed behind in Nebraska, working my shifts coming home to an empty house. She rarely called. When I would phone her, she always seemed busy, distracted, eager to get off the line. I told myself she was focused on her studies, that it was a good thing. I continued sending her money every month, for expenses money I could barely spare, and never once did she say thank you. But I did not complain. That is what mothers do, I told myself. We give without expecting anything in return. Our reward is seeing our children succeed. I just never imagined how much that philosophy would cost me. Patrice graduated from college with a degree in marketing and landed a job at a company in Los Angeles. I was so proud of her. She was building a life for herself, becoming independent, achieving things I never could. It was everything I had worked for. About a year after she started working, she called me with news. She had met someone. His name was Derek, and she sounded happier than I had heard her in years. She gushed about how wonderful he was, how successful, how he treated her like a princess. I was thrilled. After everything we had been through, my daughter had found love. I asked when I could meet him already, imagining welcoming him into our small family. Patrice said they would come visit soon. 6 months passed before they finally made the trip to Nebraska. I spent a week preparing for their arrival, cleaning every corner of my little house, cooking all of Patrice's favorite dishes, buying new sheets for the guest room. I wanted everything to be perfect. When they pulled up in a shiny black car that probably cost more than I made in 2 years, my heart was pounding with excitement. Derek stepped out first. He was tall, well-dressed, in clothes that screamed money, with perfectly styled hair and a confident stride. He looked around at my modest neighborhood, and I caught something in his expression. A flicker of judgment quickly masked by a polished smile. He shook my hand firmly. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Alberta. Patrice has told me so much about you." But his eyes told a different story. They scanned my living room, taking in the worn furniture, the outdated television, the water stain on the ceiling I could never afford to fix. I felt like I was being appraised and found lacking. During dinner that first night, Derek dominated the conversation. He talked about his job as a sales manager at an insurance company, about his family's real estate holdings in Orange County, about the new BMW his parents had just bought him. He name-dropped restaurants and vacation spots. I had never heard of places that probably cost more for one meal than my monthly grocery budget. "It is cozy here," he said at one point, gesturing around my dining room. "Very humble." The way he said it made my skin crawl. There was condescension dripping from every syllable. I looked at Patrice, expecting her to say something to defend our home, to defend me, but she just smiled tightly and changed the subject. That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying the evening in my head, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe Derek was just nervous meeting his girlfriend's mother for the first time. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But then I heard them talking through the thin walls of my house. Derek's voice came first. "Your mom seems nice, but I hope you do not expect us to live like this." And then my daughter's response clear as day. Of course not. She is just simple. Simple. That is what I was to her. Not hard-working, not sacrificing, not devoted, just simple. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling something inside me crack. But I did not say anything. I smiled through the rest of their visit, pretended everything was fine, and waved goodbye as they drove away. What else could I do? She was my daughter, my only child, the center of my entire world. After that visit, the phone calls became even less frequent. When Patrice did call, Derek was always there in the background. I could hear him making comments, and Patrice would cut our conversations short. I miss you, sweetie, I would say. She would respond with a distracted, yeah, me too, Mom. Gotta go. I started following them on social media just to feel connected to my daughter's life. What I saw confused me. Luxury vacations in exotic locations, designer handbags and shoes, expensive dinners at trendy restaurants. Patrice's salary as a junior marketing associate could not possibly afford that lifestyle. But I did not ask questions. I just assumed Derek came from money like he said. Then came the text message, not a phone call, not a video chat, a text message. Mom, Derek proposed. We are engaged. I stared at those words for a long time. My only daughter was getting married, and she told me through a text message. I called immediately, my hands shaking with excitement, despite the sting of the impersonal announcement. The phone rang and rang. No answer. I left a voicemail, my voice thick with emotion. Congratulations, sweetheart. I am so happy for you. Call me when you can. I want to hear everything. She texted back hours later. Thanks, Mum. We are still planning. We'll let you know about the wedding. And that was it. No call, no details, just a promise to keep me informed. I threw myself into preparation anyway. I started saving every extra penny for a wedding gift. I bought a beautiful dress on sale, a soft lavender number that made me feel elegant for the first time in years. I practiced my speech for the reception, the one where I would tell everyone how proud I was of my daughter, how much I loved her. I imagined walking her down the aisle since her father was long gone. I pictured the tears of joy, the mother-daughter dance the moment she would look at me and finally understand everything I had done for her. I had no idea those moments would never come. 3 months after the engagement, my phone rang. I almost dropped it when I saw Derek's name on the screen. He had never called me before, not once. Mum, he said, and the word felt strange coming from his mouth. I hope you do not mind me calling you that. I did mind, actually. He had shown me nothing but thinly veiled contempt since the day we met. But I wanted to keep the peace. Of course not, Derek. What can I do for you? His voice shifted into something smoother, more practiced, like a salesman making a pitch. Well, Patrice and I have some exciting news. We found a house. It is perfect, right in Pasadena. Great neighborhood, amazing investment opportunity. That is wonderful, I said carefully. Here is the thing, he continued. The housing market is crazy right now. Prices keep going up. If we do not buy now, we will be priced out forever. I made a non-committal sound, wondering where this was going. We need help with this down payment. The seller wants 20%, which is $90,000. His pause was calculated. We were hoping you could help us out. I nearly choked. $90,000. That was not help. That was my entire life savings. Every extra shift I had worked, every meal I had skipped, every small pleasure I had denied myself for 3 decades. I do not know, Derek, I said slowly. That is a lot of money. His voice turned persuasive. I understand, Mom, but think about it as an investment in Patrice's future, in our future, in your future grandchildren. You want them to grow up in a nice home, do not you? Before I could respond, Patrice came on the line. Mom, please, this is our dream house. If we do not buy it now, someone else will. And prices are only going up. We will never have another chance like this. I heard desperation in her voice, and despite everything, my heart softened. This was my daughter, my little girl. All I ever wanted was for her to be happy. Let me think about it, I said. For days I agonized over the decision. I looked at my bank balance, seeing the number that represented 30 years of sacrifice, $87,000. Not quite enough for their down payment, but close. I thought about my own future, about retirement, which was not that far away, about emergencies, medical bills, the roof that needed repairs. Could I really give away everything I had? But then I thought about Patrice, about holding her as a baby, promising her I would give her the world, about all those nights working double shifts so she could have opportunities I never did. What was the point of all that sacrifice if I could not help her now? In the end, I knew I could not say no. I transferred $87,000 to Derek's account, emptying my savings completely. Derek called to thank me, his voice dripping with gratitude that felt rehearsed. "You are the best, Mom. We will never forget this." 2 months later, he called again. "So here is the situation," he said. "The mortgage payment is more than we expected. $2,800 a month. With our other expenses, we are coming up a little short." "How short?" I asked, a cold feeling settling in my stomach. "Well, we were hoping you could help us cover the mortgage, just for a few months, until I get my promotion." A few months. That became my new reality. Every month I sent the money I could barely afford. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital. I stopped eating out entirely, surviving on rice and beans and whatever was on sale. I did not turn on the heat that winter, wearing 3 sweaters inside my own home instead. Meanwhile, my daughter posted photos of tropical vacations and designer shopping sprees. I watched from my cold little house, telling myself this was temporary. They would get back on their feet. They would pay me back. 1 year turned into 2. I kept sending money. They kept spending. And not once, not a single time did either of them say thank you. I was going broke keeping them afloat, and they did not even notice. Or maybe they did notice and simply did not care. I should have stopped. I know that now. But she was my daughter, and I had spent my whole life believing that a mother's job was to sacrifice everything for her children. It never occurred to me that some children are not worth sacrificing for. 2 years after the engagement, I still had not received a wedding invitation. Every time I asked about their plans, Patrice gave me vague answers. "We are still figuring out the details," she would say. Or, "We want to wait until Derek gets his promotion." Or simply, "I will let you know." I tried not to let it bother me. Wedding planning was stressful. They were busy with work and life. When the time came, they would include me. I was her mother after all, the only parent she had. One Sunday in September, I woke up with a sudden urge to see my daughter. It had been almost a year since I had seen her face in person. I missed her. I missed the little girl who used to climb into my lap and tell me I was the best mommy in the world. I wanted to believe that girl was still in there somewhere. I decided to drive to Pasadena unannounced. It was a 4-hour trip from my new place in Nevada, where I had moved to be closer to the West Coast, closer to her. I brought a special gift, my grandmother's pearl necklace, passed down through 3 generations of women in our family. I had been saving it for Patrice's wedding day. When I pulled onto their street, I noticed something strange. Cars lined both sides of the road near their house. Through the windows, I could see people moving around inside, and decorations that looked festive, celebratory. My heart started beating faster as I parked and walked up to the front door. I could hear music playing, laughter, the clink of glasses. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Derek stood there in a crisp white shirt, a champagne flute in his hand. His expression went from surprised to annoyed in the span of a heartbeat. "Oh, it is you. We were not expecting visitors." I peered past him into the house. The living room was decorated with white flowers and silver streamers. A banner hung across the back wall, but I could not quite make out the words. People in formal attire mingled and chatted. "What is going on?" I asked. "Is this a party?" Derek did not invite me in. He stood in the doorway, blocking my entrance like a bouncer at an exclusive club. I clutched the gift box containing my grandmother's necklace. "I came to see Patrice. I have something for her, a wedding gift." Derek's eyebrows rose. "Wedding gift? For when you two get married?" I smiled, trying to ease the awkward tension. I was hoping maybe we could finally talk about the date. What happened next will stay with me until the day I die. Derek leaned against the doorframe, a smirk spreading across his face. The kind of smirk that says, I know something you do not. The wedding. He took a sip of his champagne. It was last weekend, just for real family. I must have misheard him. I must have. Because there was no way my own daughter got married without telling me, without inviting me, without even letting me know it had happened. What did you say? Derek's smirk widened. I said we got married. Saturday before last. Beautiful ceremony at my parents' beach house. Very intimate. Family and close friends only. The world tilted beneath my feet. I am her family. I am her mother. He shrugged, and in that gesture I saw exactly how little I mattered to him. Well, Patrice wanted to keep it simple. My family, a few friends. She did not want to make it complicated. Complicated. That is what I was to them, a complication. Besides, Derek continued, we did not want to make you feel uncomfortable. Our guests are, how do I put this different from you? I pushed past him before I could think about what I was doing. I had to see for myself. I had to find my daughter and hear it from her own lips. The living room was full of people I did not recognize. Wealthy-looking people in expensive clothes, holding drinks and chatting about things I could not understand. And there on the wall, clear as day, was the banner I could not read from outside. Congratulations, Derek and Patrice. Next to it hung a large framed photograph. My daughter in a white wedding dress, radiant and beautiful, standing next to Derek in a tailored suit. Behind them stood his parents beaming with pride. Other family members surrounded them, smiling faces everywhere. Not a single picture included me, not one. Patrice spotted me from across the room. Her face went pale, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Mom, what are you doing here? I walked toward her, my legs moving on autopilot. The crowd seemed to part around me, sensing the tension, sensing that something was very wrong. You got married, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You got married and you did not tell me. Patrice set down her glass. I was going to call you. When after the honeymoon? After you had erased me completely from your life. She looked around nervously at the watching guests. Mom, please, can we not do this here? Do what? Ask why my only daughter got married without inviting her own mother. Derek appeared at Patrice's side, his hand on her back possessively. Look, this is not the time or place. Maybe you should leave and we can discuss this later. I looked at my daughter, my baby, the child I had sacrificed everything for. I waited for her to say something, anything, to explain, to apologize, to tell me this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Instead, she looked at the floor and said the words that shattered what was left of my heart. Mom, please, you are embarrassing me. Embarrassing her. At her wedding. The wedding she did not invite me to. I placed the gift box on a nearby table. Inside was my grandmother's necklace, the one piece of my family history I had saved, the most precious thing I owned. I had planned to give it to her on her wedding day, to watch her wear it, to see another generation of women carry our legacy forward. This was for you, I said. It was your great-grandmother's. Then I turned and walked out the door. No one followed. No one called after me. I climbed into my car and sat there for a long moment, staring at the house where my daughter was celebrating her new life. A life that did not include me. The drive back to Nevada took 4 hours. I do not remember most of it. I just remember the tears that would not stop falling, and the question that kept echoing in my mind. Where did I go wrong? For the next week, I barely left my bed. I called in sick to work, something I had never done in 30 years. I could not eat, could not sleep, could not do anything except replay that moment in my head. You are embarrassing me. Was that really all I was to my daughter? An embarrassment. Something to be hidden away, ashamed of. I thought about all the years I had spent sacrificing for her, the 3 jobs, the sleepless nights, the meals I skipped so she could have seconds, the dreams I abandoned so she could pursue hers. And this was my reward: exclusion, humiliation, rejection. My friend Gloria came to check on me when I did not answer her calls for 3 days. She found me on the couch, still in my pajamas, surrounded by used tissues. Alberta, what in the world happened to you? I told her everything. The secret wedding, Derek's smirk, Patrice's cruel words. And then, because Gloria had always been someone I could be honest with, I told her the rest. The down payment, the mortgage payments, the nearly $150,000 I had given them over the past 2 years. Gloria stared at me in disbelief. You have been paying their mortgage this whole time. I nodded miserably. And they did not even invite you to the wedding. I nodded again. Gloria sat down heavily beside me. Alberta, honey, I love you, but I need to say something, and you are not going to like it. I braced myself. They are using you. They have always been using you. Derek only calls when he needs money. Patrice only reaches out when she wants something. They do not see you as family. They see you as a bank account. The words hit me like a slap. But not because they were surprising. Because deep down, I had known. I had known for a long time, I just had not wanted to admit it. Had not. When is the next mortgage payment due? Gloria asked. Next week, I whispered. She took my hands in hers and looked me straight in the eyes. Then here is what you are going to do. You are not going to send it. You are not going to give them another dime. But they will lose the house. So what Gloria said firmly. They are grown adults. They have jobs. It is their house, their responsibility, not yours. It was never yours. I started to protest, but Gloria cut me off. Alberta, you have spent your entire life giving to people who do not appreciate you. First Samuel, who left you with nothing. Then Patrice, who took everything you had and still was not satisfied. When does it stop? When do you start mattering? I did not have an answer. I had never asked myself that question before. That night after Gloria left, I sat down with a calculator and added up everything I had given Derek and Patrice over the years. The down payment, 24 months of mortgage payments, the college tuition, the monthly allowances, all of it. The final number made me sick. Over $200,000. That was my entire life's work. Every extra shift, every skipped vacation, every penny I had saved for my own future. And what did I have to show for it? An old house that needed repairs, a car that was falling apart, a retirement account that was nearly empty, and a daughter who could not even be bothered to invite me to her wedding. Something shifted inside me that night. The sadness did not go away, but something else grew alongside it. Something harder, stronger, something that felt a lot like self-respect. Gloria was right, it was time to stop. The day the mortgage payment was due, I did not send it. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone, waiting for the guilt to overwhelm me. But it never came. Instead, I felt something I had not felt in years. Relief. 5 days later, my phone rang. It was Derek, and he sounded panicked. Mom, the mortgage payment is late. Did you send it? I took a deep breath. Oh, what do you mean, oh, the bank called? They said they did not receive the payment. That is correct, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I did not send it. Silence on the other end. Then what? Why not? We are going to get a late fee. Our credit score will be affected. I let his words hang in the air for a moment before responding. Well, I figured since I'm not real family, I should not be paying for real family's house. More silence, then sputtering. That is not, Patrice did not mean it like that. She did not invite me to her wedding, Derek. Her own mother. I think the message was very clear. Look, he said, his tone shifting from panicked to placating. Maybe we overreacted. Maybe we can talk about this. But the mortgage, Mum, we need to focus on the mortgage right now. I almost laughed. That is your focus, is it not? Not the fact that you hurt me. Not the fact that you excluded me from the most important day of my daughter's life. Just the money. He did not deny it. He did not even try. Derek. I said the mortgage is your responsibility. It has always been your responsibility. I should never have been paying it in the first place. But we cannot afford it without your help, he protested. Then maybe you should not have bought a house you could not afford. That is not my problem to solve. And I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I could breathe. Within hours, my phone was ringing again. This time it was Patrice. Mum, please. She was crying, or at least doing a good impression of it. "We cannot afford the mortgage without your help. They will take our house." I had prepared myself for this call, rehearsed what I would say, but hearing my daughter's voice, even distorted by tears, still hurt. "Why can you not afford it?" I asked. "You both have jobs." A long pause, then the truth came spilling out. Derek lost his job 3 months ago. He was let go for poor performance. He had been hiding it from me, going out every day pretending to go to work. We are drowning in debt. The credit cards are maxed out. The car is about to be repossessed. I closed my eyes. Of course. The luxury vacations, the designer clothes, the fancy dinners. All of it had been smoke and mirrors, a fantasy funded by borrowed money and my generosity. "I am sorry you are going through that," I said carefully. "But I do not understand what that has to do with me." "Mom, you have always helped us. You are the only one we can count on. The only one you can count on. Not the only one you love. Not the only one you appreciate. Just the only one foolish enough to keep giving when everyone else had the sense to stop. Patrice, I said I have given you and Derek nearly $200,000 over the past few years. That is my entire life savings, everything I worked for. And you repaid me by excluding me from your wedding and calling me an embarrassment." "I did not mean it like that," she whimpered. "Then how did you mean it?" Because from where I was standing, the message was very clear. I am not real family. I am just someone to ask for money when you need it. She had no response to that. "I am not going to give you another cent," I continued, "but I will offer you something else. Advice. Sell the house, pay off your debts, start over, and this time live within your means. But that house is our dream home. Then you should have worked harder to afford it yourself, instead of expecting your simple mother to pay for it." The word hung between us. Simple. She flinched at hearing it thrown back at her. "I did not mean that either," she said weakly. "I think you did. I think you have looked down on me for years, Patrice. You were ashamed of where you came from, ashamed of me. And Derek made it worse. He encouraged you to see me as beneath you, as someone to use and discard." "That is not true." "Then why was I not at your wedding? Why have you not called me once in the past year without asking for money? Why do you only remember you have a mother when you need something?" She was crying harder now. Real tears, maybe or maybe not. I could not tell anymore. "I love you, Patrice. I always have and I always will. But I am done being your safety net. I am done sacrificing my own future so you can live a lifestyle you have not earned. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on respect, not on what I can give you." There was a long silence, then in a small voice I understand. "Do you? You?" "Because I need you to really understand this. I am not a bank, I am not a doormat, I am your mother, and I deserve better than how you have treated me." "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry. Being sorry is a start. But I need to see actions, not just words. Call me when you are ready to be my daughter again, not when you need money, when you are ready to have a real relationship." And I hung up. The weeks that followed were among the hardest and the most liberating of my life. Without my financial support, Derek and Patrice's carefully constructed house of cards came tumbling down. They missed another mortgage payment, then another. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings. I learned later that Derek tried to borrow money from his own parents, the ones who supposedly owned beach houses and drove luxury cars. But the truth was, they were just as broke as he was. The whole family had been living on credit, keeping up appearances, while drowning in debt. With no one left to bail them out, Derek and Patrice were forced to face reality. They sold the house at a loss. They sold the BMW. They liquidated everything they could to pay off their creditors. And then, predictably, the marriage began to fall apart. I was not surprised. Derek had married Patrice because he thought she had access to a wealthy, generous mother who would fund their lifestyle forever. When that money disappeared, so did his interest in the relationship. They fought constantly, about money, about whose fault it was, about everything. 6 months after I stopped paying their mortgage, Patrice filed for divorce. She called me when she signed the papers. Not to ask for money, just to talk. "You were right about him," she said. "About everything. I did not say I told you so. I did not gloat. I just listened. I have been doing a lot of thinking, she continued, about how I treated you, about the person I became. I am not proud of it, Mom. I know, sweetheart. I want to do better. I want to be the daughter you deserve. I just do not know if you can ever forgive me. I thought about that for a long moment. Forgiveness was not something I could just hand over. It had to be earned. But I also knew that holding on to anger would only poison my own heart. I forgive you, Patrice. But rebuilding trust takes time. Are you willing to put in that time? Yes, she said without hesitation. However long it takes. Then we can start there. The first time Patrice came to visit after the divorce, I barely recognized her. Gone were the designer clothes and expensive accessories. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger somehow, less polished, but more real. She stood on my doorstep with a small suitcase, looking nervous. Hi, Mum. Hi, baby, come in. We sat in my living room, the same room Derek had once dismissed as humble. Now Patrice looked around with different eyes. I used to be ashamed of this house, she admitted. I thought it meant we were less than other people. I was so stupid. You were young, I said, and you were influenced by the wrong people. She shook her head. That is no excuse. You gave me everything, and I threw it back in your face. I told you that you were embarrassing me. The words still stung even now, but I could see the remorse in my daughter's eyes, and I knew it was genuine. What made you change, I asked. Losing everything, she said simply. When Derek left, when the house was gone, when all the fancy things were taken away, I had to look at myself, really look. And I did not like what I saw. She told me about the months after the divorce, how she had moved into a tiny studio apartment and picked up extra shifts at work, how she had learned to cook, to budget, to live within her means, how she had started volunteering at a local shelter, helping women who had been abandoned by their partners. I finally understand what you went through raising me alone, she said. I finally understand what sacrifice means. I reached over and took her hand. That is all I ever wanted, sweetheart. Not the money back, not even an apology, just for you to understand. She squeezed my hand tight. I do now, and I am going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. From that day forward, something shifted between us. Patrice called me every week, not to ask for anything, but just to talk. She sent me small gifts on holidays, things she had made herself, or found at thrift stores. Not expensive, but thoughtful. Every month she sent me a check. $50. $100 when she could manage it. I told her she did not have to, but she insisted. This is not about the money, she said. This is about me learning to give instead of always taking. Please let me do this. So I did. Not because I needed the money, but because I understood she needed to give it. A year after our reconciliation, Patrice asked if I wanted to take a trip together. Nothing fancy, she said. Just a road trip back to Nebraska to see where I grew up. We drove through the plains, past fields of corn and wheat, through small towns that looked exactly like they did when I was a child. Patrice asked me questions about my childhood, my parents, the life I had before she was born. Questions she had never asked before. I told her about my father and his calloused hands from working the fields, about my mother and her beautiful singing voice, about my dream of becoming a nurse and how that dream had been set aside when I became a mother. Do you regret it? Patrice asked quietly. Giving up your dreams for me. I thought about it for a long moment. Not for a second, I said finally. Because you are my dream. You always were. Even when things were hard, even when you hurt me, I never regretted having you. She pulled the car over to the side of the road and we both cried. Happy tears this time. Healing tears. When we got back home, Patrice introduced me to her friends. Not the wealthy socialites she used to run with, but real friends. Kind people who liked her for who she was, not for what she had. She brought them to my house for dinner, and this time she did not look embarrassed when they saw where I lived. This is my mum, she told them proudly. She is the strongest woman I know. Now, 3 years after that terrible day at the wedding, I can look back with something like peace. The wound is still there, but it has healed into a scar, a reminder of what I survived rather than what destroyed me. Derek disappeared from our lives completely. I heard through the grapevine that he moved to another state, started over with a new woman, probably spinning the same lies he spun for my daughter. I feel sorry for whoever falls for his act next, but that is not my burden to carry. Patrice is thriving. She got promoted at work, earned it on her own merits. She bought a small condo, nothing fancy, but completely hers. She even went back to school to get her master's degree, something she pays for herself through scholarships and savings. More importantly, she has become the daughter I always hoped she would be. Thoughtful, grateful, present. She calls me every Sunday, visits every month, includes me in her life in ways she never did before. Last month she met someone new, a kind man named Robert who works as a teacher. He does not drive a fancy car or wear expensive clothes. But when he looks at my daughter, I can see genuine love in his eyes. She brought him to meet me nervous about my reaction, but I liked him immediately. Not because of what he had, but because of who he was. Afterwards, Patrice asked me what I thought. I think he is wonderful, I said honestly. But more importantly, what do you think? She smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who had learned from her mistakes. I think I finally know what real love looks like, and it is nothing like what I had with Derek. I hugged her tight. That is all a mother can hope for. Looking back, I realized that the day Derek told me I was not real family was not the end of my story. It was the beginning. The beginning of my journey towards self-respect, towards setting boundaries, toward understanding that love does not mean sacrificing everything with no expectation of respect in return. For 30 years, I gave and gave and gave, thinking that was what a good mother does. But I was wrong. A good mother teaches her children the value of hard work, of integrity, of gratitude. By giving Patrice everything without asking for anything in return, I taught her that she was entitled to other people's sacrifices. That lesson nearly destroyed us both. When I finally said no, when I finally stopped enabling her and Derek's irresponsibility, I gave Patrice the greatest gift I could have given her, the chance to grow up, the opportunity to become the woman she was meant to be. It was painful, it nearly broke my heart, but it was necessary. To all the mothers out there who give until there is nothing left, I want you to hear this. You matter too. Your dreams matter. Your boundaries matter. Loving your children does not mean letting them walk all over you. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no. And to anyone who has ever been made to feel like they are not real family, like they are not good enough, like they do not belong, I want you to know something. The people who make you feel that way are wrong. Family is not about blood or money or status. Family is about love, respect, and showing up for each other. Anyone who does not give you those things does not deserve a place in your life. When Derek smirked and told me the wedding was just for real family, he thought he was putting me in my place. But he actually set me free. Free from a one-sided relationship that was draining me dry. Free from the endless cycle of giving without receiving. Free to finally put myself first. And you know what? I am happier now than I have ever been. I have a daughter who loves and respects me. I have friends who value me. I have a life that is simple and humble and absolutely perfect. I am real family. Not because of what I give, but because of who I am. And no one can ever take that away from me. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? Have you ever been made to feel like you do not belong? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I believe your experiences matter just as much as mine. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear these words today. And remember, you are worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. Thank you for spending this time with me. May you have the courage to set your boundaries, the strength to stand by them, and the wisdom to know that sometimes the best way to love someone is to stop sacrificing yourself for them. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are worth it.